Maladi, let's start.
Yes. Hello, everyone. A warm welcome to all of you to the first day of web lecture series on practical zoology. For months, now we have been stuck in our homes due to the global pandemic. The only means of interaction that we, the teachers and students, have at the moment are through Google Meet Classroom, occasional WhatsApp, and phone calls. While there are ample ways of remaining connected in today's digital world, we have been missing the physical presence and the ease of face to face interactions. Perhaps what have been most hampered during these days of lockdown are the practical classes and hands on experiment, especially for the science departments. This is exactly the gap that we wish to bridge by inviting experts from this field in the web lecture series. Today's webinar is on biochemistry lab and Dr. Chattopadhyay will discuss on two topics of your practical syllabus. One is about isolation and quantification of genomic DNA and the other is agarose gel electrophoresis. I am sure all of us will be enriched by the knowledge and experience that Dr. Indranil Chattopadhyay will share with us today. May I now request Dr. Shoma Aditya Bandyopadhyay to introduce Dr. Chattopadhyay to us and preside over the session.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you, Indranil.
Thank you, Maladi. So, we will start the session with a brief introduction of our speaker, Dr. Indranil Chattopadhyay. Dr. Chattopadhyay is presently serving as Assistant Professor, Department of Life Sciences in Central University of Tamil Nadu. He has over 10 years' experience in teaching and research in the field of molecular cancer biology, genomics, and metagenomics. He has done his post-graduation in zoology from Vishwabharati University and PhD from National Institute of Pathology, New Delhi. He carried out his post-research from Department of Oncology and Hematology, University of Kansas Medical Center, USA, and Cancer Genetics Department, Roswell Park Cancer Institute, New York, USA. His area of research lies in application of next generation sequencing technologies to understand the molecular mechanisms that drive metastatic progression of solid tumors and to identify non-invasive biomarkers in solid tumors. He has presented 12 papers in different national and international conferences, published 20 full-length research articles in international journals of high repute, and has also authored 2 books. Presently, he is working on 2 research projects with DBT and DST SERB. He has been awarded INSA Summer Research Fellowship in 2016, INSA Visiting Scientist Fellowship 2017-18, and DBT Visiting Research Fellowship in 2017-18. With these words, I welcome you, Dr. Chattopadhyay. One more thing, before going to the lecture, I would like all the participants, mostly our students, to follow some rules for the session. First, I would like all the participants to mute their audio and video for an uninterrupted session. And second, the lecture will be followed by an interactive question answer session. So, students, please don't hesitate to drop your queries in the chat box and they will be answered after the lecture is over. So now I hand over the session to Dr. Chattopadhyay for his presentation. Over to you, Indranil.
So first of all, I like to thank about the head of the department of your Department of Zoology, and also I like to thank Shoma Bandyopadhyay because I know her almost starting from my graduation level. So I just want to share about how to isolate the DNA from the normal cells, but because it is a zoology department, so how to isolate from the blood cells or the buccal cells, how to isolate the DNA and how you want to quantify the DNA. So it's not the question of DNA isolation. It's the most important thing, how much pure DNA you can isolate it and how you want to know that your DNA is the best quality by on the basis of the quality aspects and the quantity aspects. So these are the overall concept. And what are the figures and all these things? I took it most of these in the Google image and also some of the videos which I prepared from the Mata Amrita universities from the and also some of the YouTube videos. But what I particularly mention about that some write-up point, that is I think most important the student should know that why I should use these chemicals, why I should use this temperature. That is the most important part of the practical rather than this is my personal experience what I feel. So I think I already shared the slide. If is it visualized? Please let me know. Is it visualized?
No. No, slide.
No, it's not.
Now, is it
No.
visualized now?
No, Indranil.
No,
No,
not yet.
not yet. Okay, but 1 minute. One minute. Now is visualized.
No.
Now it is
Indranil.
visualized.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So
Yes.
I am now. So now I am going for the full screen mode. So then, if you have any kind of interruptions, please let me know. So this is the DNA isolation, quantification, and agarose-Gil electrophoresis, which I need to cover during my presentation. So now question is that if you see, this is the normal cell structures. I'm not going detail what is the cell organelles and all these things because you have gone through your starting from your class 8 levels. So to get it about these DNA structures, what we have to do? So this is the cell, this is the cell membrane, this is the nucleus. Inside the nucleus, the DNA is there. So we need to break about the outer layer of the cells. We need to remove the proteins or the cytoplasmic materials, and then we also need to remove about the nuclear membrane, and then finally you have to get the DNA. So when you are going to considering about the human DNA, whether it is a lymphocytes or any other body part of the cells, the DNA is also itself attached with the histones. So we need to remove about the histones also, this protein also, to get about the good purified and high quality of DNA. Now, so what are the sources? So maybe that as a animal science people, so you may get about the DNA from the blood, from the buccal cells, which mean that oral cavity cells. You can get it from the cultured animal cells. You can get it from the biopsy samples, body fluid, hair follicles, bone. So if you see the first slide, that this point, the sources, different cells are there. Okay, so blood, buccal cells, hair follicles, bone, teeth, etc. So all the cells has a different kind of structurally different. Okay. So when you are going to isolate the DNA to how to rupture the blood cells, you cannot use the same procedures for rupturing of the bone or teeth root. Okay, so you have to use a different kind of method. So this is the first thing what I want to mention. Second is that DNA can be isolated from any enucleated bacterial cells. And why I mentioned of the bacterial DNA, so bacterial DNA can be isolated from any kind of clinical samples, whether your sputum, whether plasma, whether bacteria, for oral saliva or swabs. Now, second parameters what I am going to focus that what is the concentration of DNA one unit cell, because now the present era or present most research area is that called single cell genomics. So in one particular cell, how much amount of DNA is there? So in diploid cell, the 6 picogram of DNA, sperm contains 3 picogram of DNA, and normally about that WBC, white blood corpuscles, if you 10 to the power of 6 cells, if you are taking, you will get 30 to 60 nanogram of DNA. So these are the basic things at least you should know when you are going to use the DNA isolation from any sources. Okay. No. So when you want to know about isolate the DNA, you should have an idea about how DNA structures looks like. So it has a nitrogenous base. I'm not going detail about the purine and pyrimidine base. So carbon sugar and negatively charged phosphate groups. Okay. So that's why it is called, even it is called the deoxyribonucleic acid. Okay. So and DNA has a nitrogenous base, but till it is telling acid because of the presence of the negatively charged phosphate groups. And the sodium ions, which is present in our body, which is present inside the cells, which is attached with also the DNA, so it maintain the integrity of the DNA double helix structure. So most important is that what is the take-home message in this slide? It should be the negatively charged phosphate backbone, complementary base pairings, and DNA is packed with the histones, so we need to remove the histones to get about the complete DNA. Now, so what are the steps? So here I am going to come to the point. So when you are going to isolate the DNA from the WBC, when you are going to isolate the DNA from the buccal epithelial cells, suppose if you want to isolate from the tissue, suppose mouse tissue, or even what I am going to show about that in your video. Suppose you want to isolate the DNA from the fish fins. Okay, so what way you have to use the rupture the cells? So that most important thing is that a technique to lyse the cells gently. So how you make the gently word? The reason is that you should not pressurize such a way that DNA should not be denatured. Okay. So you can use by the mortar and pestles. If the tissue is very hard, we can use the liquid nitrogen. So purpose of liquid nitrogen is that when you put the samples into the mortar and pestle, we add the liquid nitrogen, which has temperature of minus 180 degrees centigrade. It will solidify the entire material. So when you press it the pestle, so it will become a powder. So your main target is that how you get about the rupture the cells. Okay, so when you rupture the cells, your cytoplasm, your nucleus, everything mix up. Okay, and your cytoplasm has a plenty of enzymes. Okay, you have plenty of proteins are there, so we need to remove the proteins. So to remove the proteins, people normally use about the phenol and chloroforms. Okay, phenol chloroform not only denatures the protein, it will also dissolve the denatured proteins. In spite of that, what normally I use it, even I explain about in my presentation also, we have to use a proteinase K. And this proteinase K, why I am to use the proteinase K, that will come to the next slide. The purpose is to denature the protein, to dissolve the protein. So when the cytosolic and nuclear protein is totally ruptured, totally dissolved, okay, then we want to think to considering about the DNA to get precipitated. So what you have to add it? We have to add about that ice cold 95% ethanol. Okay, in this stage, people what they add it in different kind of salt. So some people use it about the 3 molar sodium chloride, some people use ammonium chloride, etc. So high salt. So purpose of the salt is that the salt will rupture the hydrogen bonding between the water molecule and negatively charged phosphate group which is present on the DNA. So first step is the grinding the cells. Second step is the removing the cytoplasmic proteins and nuclear protein. Third step is that how you can precipitate the DNA out from the solution. And fourth step is that, so when you are using this DNA up to first step, second step, third step, you have using phenol chloroform, you have used the ethanol, you have used other solvent. So you have to wash the DNA to remove impurities. What are the impurities? Impurities is basically about the salt. Impurities is ethanol, impurities is the phenylchloroform, and also we are using here, I am just going to discuss about detail about the lysis buffer. This buffer will help to lysis the cells, to rupture the cells. So we have to use about the 70% ethanol to wash it. So after washing, so what is the purpose of wash? So the 70% ethanol to remove the salt and other water soluble impurities, but not resuspend the DNA. So this ethanol cannot resuspend the DNA. So then the resuspension stage is that we have to use the TE buffer. Okay. So purpose of the, what is the TE full name? TE is called the Trisma base, E for EDTA. Now question is that why you have to use the EDTA in this buffer? Because when the DNA is present into the finally resuspended, the DNAs, you just use, please remember about the terminology called DNAs. So that means the enzyme which will break the DNA, that is always present in the nature. So the DNAs can itself degrade your isolated DNA. To protect these things, we use the EDTA. Now what this EDTA will do, I will come later on. The EDTA will bind to the magnesium ions which is required for this DNA's activity to digest the DNA. So this is the most important slide. So lysis, removal of proteins, precipitation of DNA, wash the DNA, and resuspension of the DNA or solubilization of the DNA. So next slide. So what you need for this, all the buffers and all these things, we need the pipette. Different kind of pipette sets are there. So it is 1 ml pipette. It will take about the solution from up to 1000 microliter, 200 microliter of pipette, maximum 200 microliter of solution. You can resuspense it. This is basically about the 0.5 to 10, and these are the different kind of pipette tips, and these are the centrifuges. So you have to use the centrifuge. We have to make it about the adjusting the time, how much minutes is the centrifuge you need. And the centrifuge most important properties about that, how you have to use the centrifuge. The reason is that I think in those who have gone through in the class 12 level physics, they have gone through the one principle is called the centrifugal and centrifugal force. So this principle is used to separate organic solvent to the aqueous solvent. What is the organic solvent? The phenylchloroform. Aqueous solvent means the solution where the DNA is present. Now, these are the basic thing how you can unit changes, etc. is there. So let us say this is a liter, 1 ml is equal to 1000 microliter, or so 1000 ml, and then 1 ml is equal to 1 liter is equal to 1000 ml. So these are the liter conversions, and all these things is very much important for your making the buffer preparation, to prepare into how much aliquot you are going to add it, etc. etc. Now, this is the schematic presentation. So what we have done, this is the culture cells or whatever. This is the tissue extract. So we have used by the lysis step. Then you have to use the proteins and lipids. Then you have to use proteins, denature the protein. Then you have to use for the precipitation. And finally, people are using the RNase treatment. RNase treatment means because we need to see what is our purpose. Our purpose of research, our practical objective is that to get the good quality of DNA. So inside the cell, RNA is also there. So some RNA, even it is not possible it will take longer period of time for the degradation, because RNAs are there in the environment. So we have to add the RNase treatment to degrade the RNA, so we can get about a highly purified DNA for in the downstream applications. Okay. So these are the normal steps. So these are the basic, very simple way for DNA isolation. Suppose your lab, you do not have because why I just want to show these things, because nowadays in animal dissections are very difficult because of ethical approvals and all these things. So you can even that, this is basically about that non-invasive procedure. So non-invasive procedure means, so the DNA, so whatever the buccal epithelial cells which is present in our oral cavity, if you rinse it by the sodium chloride solution or normal gargle it, and if you spit it, you will get about the buccal epithelial cells. So how you can go for the buccal epithelial cells DNA isolation? It's the same step: cell lysis, proteinase treatment to denature the proteins, then precipitation by the ice cold ethanols. Then you have to, when you get it this pellet, that precipitate, you have to wash by the 75% ethanol, and finally you are going for the DNA precipitation in the PE buffer or nucleus free water. So these are the hard materials. Suppose if you have, because I told in the first slide, you have a different sources. So blood lymphocytes and oral epithelial cells, you do not need motor neuron. But if you want to take it about the fish tissue, if you want to take the fish fin, you are taking aquarium, take the fish, cut the fin and you put it. So then you need to rupture the cells by the liquid nitrogens. After that, the procedures are almost same. Phenylchloroform extraction method, okay. Then centrifugation. This is the upper aqueous layer. You can take the upper aqueous layer, add the isopropyl alcohol. Some people use isopropyl alcohol. Some people use about the ethanol. So to get it about the PECID the DNA, then you have used 70% ethanol, dry the pellet and dissolve in the TE buffer. So till now, what are the things I explained it again? I am recapitulating. So first step is that to rupture the cells. To rupture the cells, different source of the cells, you have to use a different principle. The basic principle is the same, where you are going to use the lysis buffer. Second step, what you are going to use, you have to use for the phenylchloroform treatment to denature the protein, to denature the lipid from the cytosolic protein, from membrane protein, from the nuclear membrane protein, etc. You can use about the proteinase K treatment also. So when you all these things are done, if you do the centrifugation step, and this centrifugation will separate both organic layer. Organic solvent layer means where the phenylchloroforms are there, where the denaturing protein, denaturing lipids, everything is there, and upper aqueous layer will be only intact DNA. When you take the upper aqueous layer, add the isopropyl alcohol, equal volume, or 100% ethanol, ice cold ethanol in the presence of 3 molar sodium acetate or 5 molar ammonium acetate, whatever you like. So it will help to DNA to get precipitated. Then next step, you have to wash the DNA, and finally you have to resuspend it your DNA. Now, question is that what is lysis buffer? Okay, see this lysis buffer. What is the basic composition of it? It has a detergent. Mainly, it has a negatively charged anionic detergents that are called sodium dodecyl sulfate. This is the negatively charged detergents. It has a salt. Mainly, it has sodium salt. It has a buffer. So what is the buffer? Basically, is a 50 millimolar of Tris ACl pH 8.0. So alkaline pH. So pH is a negative logarithm of hydrogen ion concentration. So this pH is the most important for any kind of molecular biology techniques. So when your DNA pH is 8, so it will maintaining the stability of the DNA even if you rupture the cells. Okay. So this will design to lyse the outer cell membrane of the blood or epithelial cell, but it will not break to the nuclear membrane. Then you have to add the EDTA. So what is EDTA full name? Ethylene diamine tetraacetic acid. So it's a chelating agent. What does it mean by the chelating agent? Because this agent can interact with the divalent cation magnesium ions, which is required for this DNA nucleus activity. So if EDTA bind with these magnesium ions, so nucleus becomes inactivated. So nucleus cannot act on the DNA to degrade the DNA. Okay. Next thing is that sodium dodecyl sulfate. What is the purpose of it? So it will break the cells. The sodium dodecyl sulfate, what is the percentage? 1%, and it will break the nuclear membrane. So lysis buffer will not break the nuclear membrane. Sodium, moment you are adding the sodium dodecyl sulfate, it will break the nuclear membrane. Sodium dodecyl denatures unfold protein and making them more susceptible to the protease cleavage. So if you add the sodium dodecyl sulfate, after that if you use the proteinase K, it will enhances the proteinase K activity much more faster. Okay. So and look at the phospholipid bilayers. If you see this in the cell biology classes, if you have gone through the Sanger-Nicholson theory, this is a phospholipid bilayer. So lipid bilayer need to denature it. Otherwise, you cannot reach into the. And why I am telling the water? Because in the cytoplasm, most of the parts are water. Okay. So most important thing is the proteinase K. So it will not only act of the endolytic protease. So endolytic protease, so it is used for the digestion of protein in the nucleic acid preparations. So it is more active than denatured protein than non-denaturing protein. That's why the sodium dodecyl sulfate is really needed to add it in these solutions. And finally, the proteinase K, what they will clip the peptide bond. So what if you go through the biochemistry, you know about the peptide bond. It is a carboxyl carbon of one amino acid and the amino terminal end of the another amino acids. So it will act on the carboxylic side, the aliphatic, aromatic, and hydrophobic amino acids. So in our body, there are different kind of proteins are there. In the protein has a rich source of amino acid. Some proteins has a mode of the acidic amino acids, so some will be the basic amino acids, some will be aromatic amino acids, so phenylalanine, tyrosine, tryptophan, lysine, arginine, histidine is the basic amino acids. So these will go through the biochemistry classes, and please go through the Wilson Walker book, which will giving the basic idea about the DNA isolation, etc. And what is the proteinase K type? It is classified as a serine protease. It degrades protein even in the presence of the detergents also. Okay, so suppose if you want to say, okay, now I want to know about the bacterial cell, how much present in our body. So then you have to use the lysozymes or lysosphatin. Lysozyme, why you need? Because it will help to the degrade the bacterial peptidoglycan layers, which is the peptidoglycan. I think in the biochemistry you have gone through the bacterial peptidoglycan is a mix-up of the N-acetyl glucosamine and N-acetyl muramic acid. It is a beta-1,4 glycosidic linkage. See, this glycosidic linkage was stopped by the lysozyme. Okay. And finally, we are going for the another enzyme that is called the ribonuclease. Okay. Now, what I told into the DNA precipitation step, other than ice cold ethanol, we are using about the 3 molar sodium acetate or the 5 molar ammonium chloride, etc. The reason is that now question is why I want to use ice cold ethanol. So it make the DNA clump together and precipitate out from the solution. Why I want to use the sodium ions? Because it will add, because it is a positively charged ions and negatively charged phosphate group which is present in the DNA. So it is neutralize the electric charge and to make the DNA molecule to precipitate. So this addition of sodium chloride allows the DNA molecule to come together instead of repelling each other. So make the DNA out from the solutions. Now, question is that, okay, you got it the DNA. After that, what you storage it? How will you storage it? So this purified DNA should be storage in the -20 or -70. If you do not have your practical lab -70, -20, you can keep your DNA for longer period of time in your refrigerator chiller. The reason is that and DNA also need to be stored into the TE buffer. I already mentioned Prisma base and EDTA buffer. pH should be 8.0 because acidic condition. If you are dissolving, you may ask about that. I can use the DNA for the nucleus-free water. So the reason is that if you are using the DNA dissolving the nucleus-free water, the problem will be that nucleus-free water, if it will become acidic due to the environmental condition or some of the way or the temperature fluctuation in the refrigerator and all these things, so it will hydrolysis the DNA. So to avoid these things, people recommend best is the TE buffer. Okay. So this is I'm not going about that. And another thing is that the most important point is that if you after isolation of DNA, you cannot repeatedly freeze and thawing also. That will also damage the DNA for longer period of times, etc. Now, okay, we got the DNA. So what we have to do for the next? We want to know really it is a DNA or not. So we have to do the checking is called the spectrophotometric checking, the quantitative checking. So how much concentration of DNA is there? So it is a scientific method which is based on the absorption of light by a substance. Substance means the DNA, nucleic acid, which is absorb the light and takes the advantage of two laws. One is called Lambert's law and Beer's law. Entire DNA quantification is depends upon these two laws. Okay. Now, this absorbance is depends upon the concentration. That means how much amount of DNA is already present, and what is the path length. That means about that from where you are going to add your DNA, the cuvette. I am going to the show about that video. That path length that will make a matter. Now, question is that spectrophotometry means we have to use the different kind of range. Absorption rate. So here we are using 260 nanometer. Why? because the purine and pyrimidine, which is present in the nucleic acid, so purine and adenine and guanine and cytosine and thymine. So these purines, they absorb the light at 260 nanometer. That's why DNA concentration is always determined by the 260 nanometer. Now, even we told that we have treated the treatment of the phenol, chloroform, protein escape, but still there is a chance about the protein contamination. Because if your blood sample, suppose if you are keeping the blood into the blood bank for longer period of time, for long time of storage, that will make the protein contamination more in the DNA samples. So we need to take about the protein concentration in the 280 nanometers. And finally, we have to take another reading in the 230 nanometers. So 3 spectrophotometric wavelength, you have to take the reading. So what is called, why? Because phenols, urea, which are organic solvents, what you are giving into the samples, that need to take a reading in the 230 nanometers. Okay. Now let us come to the Lambert's and Beer's law. Now what they said about the proportion of light absorbed by a medium is independent of the intensity of the incident light. So what does it mean? So in spectrophotometer, whatever the light source you are keeping, it does not matter. If what amount about the DNA is present into your solution, that will only reflect. If you are giving increase the UV lamp power, it does not affect. Okay, so that's why the proportion of light is absorbed by a medium is independent of the proportion of is independent of intensity of the incident light. So it does not depend upon the intensity of the light. And what is Beer's law? The absorbance of the light is directly proportional both concentration of the absorbing medium. Beer's law, what is it? That how much light they will absorb. So how much concentration of DNA is present and what is the thickness of the solution. That makes a matter. So what Lambert's and Beer's law tell? So there are two things DNA. One is that how much concentration of DNA is present into the DNA, that will only reflect. And what is the thickness of the solution, that is also most important parameter. So that will reflect in the Beer's law. And the second thing is that whatever the DNA, the light source, whatever the light source we are using, the UV light, so you are using the different kind of companies or different kind of spectrophotometer, DNA concentration, whatever the instrument you are using, it should give you about the similar kind of data. So that is my purpose of telling. So quantification method. So normal, this is a traditional method. So DNA concentration, optical density is 260 nanometer, dilution factor. So normally we have to use the DNA diluted because the DNA is a very high concentration. So sometimes it will not come to the range of spectrophotometer. So you have to, suppose you have to take 1 microliter of DNA and then you have to have 99 microliter of PE buffer. So then you have to dilute it. So that means 100 microliter, and then you have to use a 50 microgram per ml. So entire calculation you have to divide by 1000. So now question is, why 50 microgram? So 50 microgram, the reason is that the double stranded DNA or absolute 260 optical density, which is equivalent to 50 microgram per ml. And if you are using single stranded DNA, you have to multiply by 33. If you are using RNA, it will multiply by 40. Now, question is that how much pure my DNA is? If I'll ask this question. So, if the 260 ratio and 280 ratios, so 260 is the nucleic acid ratio, optical density, 280 is the protein density. If both coming in the between 1.6 to 2, then it will be the highly purified DNA. Now, if it is less than 1.6, then it is a protein contamination. If it is more than 2, it will become phenol or chloroform contamination. So it should be between 1.8 to 1.6, maximum 1.6, but not more than that. Okay. Okay. So I hope up to this part you have. If you have any doubt, any confusion, you can tell me, because now I am going to jump to the showing to the videos. Okay, so how you can do for the DNA isolation from the fish fins. Okay, so and if the video is not available also, please let me know. So Is it video is available to everybody?
Yes.
Okay, okay, it sounds good. So now let us start. So look at that. So extraction of DNA from the fish fins. So there is aquariums are there. This is basically about that incubation box. So what people will do, they will take about the fish by the net. Now they will cut it, and look at that, everybody use the gloves. Without gloves, no molecular biology practical is possible. Okay, so you cut it, put it back. This is the motor. Now this is the 1 ml pipettes. Okay, so 600 microliter of.
Indranil, it's not coming.
It is not coming. 1 minute, 1 minute.
Indranil?
Yes, 1 minute,
No.
1 minute.
No.
1 minute. Okay.
Only the first feet is visible.
Okay, 1 minute. Now it is coming.
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay. So
No.
now it is coming. Am I right? Hello?
Yes, coming.
Okay, okay. So look at that. They take the fins. Now they are taking 600 microliter. So adjusting the pipette. So what is this vial? Lysis buffer. So extraction buffer or lysis buffer is the same. They take it, okay, put it and put it back, the lysis buffer, and then they wrap it. So because it is a hard material. So when this is the available, now they will open the tube. They will take the spatula. Everything should be autoclaved. Everything should be DNase, RNase, protease free, whatever the tubes we are going to use. Then you have to put it into the water bath. So what temperature they are mentioning? So 1 hour, 37 degrees centigrade. So it will totally rupture the cells. It will totally rupture the nucleus or etc. So then so then you have to use about that another 1 hour 55 degrees centigrade. So 37 degrees centigrade, 55 degrees. So normally what people are using in the 55 degrees centigrade temperature, they are using the proteinase K. Okay. Now look at that centrifuge. So this is the centrifuge. You have to, for balancing, you have to keep it another 1 tube. Okay. Without balance, you cannot keep it, because if you are keeping without balance, entire the centrifuge is showing the vibration and showing error. Now look at that. They are adjusting about that RPM, and so 10 minutes 5000 RPMs. So centrifugation done. Okay, this is the tube. So they are taking about that entire supernatant aqueous solution about that, and below if you see that white things, so these are the white pellets are there. Okay. So yes, so when you take it out, so this all the tips, if you are doing that, it is discarding. Okay. Now look at that phenol chloroform isoamyl alcohol they are using. So purpose is that to denature protein and to denature lipids. So they add it. Okay. After adding, so they are shaking vortex, just normal this by handshake. Okay. Then again they are going for the centrifugation. Okay. So after centrifugation done, so we will get about that 2 layers. One is called that upper aqueous layer, and below is the organic solvent layer. So we have to take it only the upper aqueous layer, because organic layer is only the lipids and proteins are there. So upper part is only the DNA. Okay. So put it back. Then again, what you are going to use the isoamyl alcohol. Okay, so look at that. Every tips they are changing. Okay, so this is chloroform and isoamyl alcohol. So this is totally manual method. Shake it again by inversions several times, then again centrifuge. Okay, so how the solution, so they want to take it out. Okay, to put it back, then add, so sodium acetate. Yes, they want to add the sodium acetate. The sodium ion will help to the DNA will precipitate out, and isopropyl. So it is ethanol. So the ice cold ethanol, they are going to add it. Okay, again shaking, inverting, and this. Okay, so you will get it about the DNA pellet. Look it as some thread-like structures. And for the getting better precipitate, what people have to do, you can keep it into the deep freezer -20 for 1 hour. Okay. So after that, you take it out. Okay, centrifuge. So what is the centrifuge timing? So 10,000 RPM for 12,000 RPM for 10 minutes. You will get it about the nice pellet. So that, see, look at that. This nice pellet, so we can discard the entire supernatant. So whatever that, because the pellet is the DNA, because DNA is already pellet out. So again, you are going to wash the DNA with 70% ethanol to remove the salt, to remove other impurities, etc. Okay, you flush it properly. Ten thousand RPM for 10 minutes. So again, one small centrifuge. Okay, you have to discard the ethanol. Okay, by another new pipette. So look at that. They change the pipette tips. Okay. So when they change the pipette tips, so they will dry the DNA pellet, because 15 minutes or whatever in the normal room temperature. After in the tissue paper, thin white tissue paper. Okay. Now you have to dissolve your DNA for the by the TE buffer. So before you have to go to the DNA, so they are using the TE buffer. Okay. And some people use it. See, look at that. In the last stage, they are using for the RNS treatment to remove the RNA. Okay. So for RNase activation, normally it will happen into they keep it in the water bath for 2 hours for 37 degrees centigrade. So all RNAs will be removed, and you will get about, even the DNA is also be dissolved. So you will get about the good quality of DNA. So now I am going to later on for the electrophoresis part. So yes, so I hope up to this much is clear. to everybody. So what we have done the DNA isolation, and now I am going to for the next important slide about that, how you can go for the spectrophotometric reading. Thank you so much. Okay, so how you can go for spectrophotometric reading. So when you go for 1 minute. So is it clear? Hello?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so look at that. This is the UV visible spectrophotometer. This is the pipettes, and these are the cuvette, and these are the rack. So now let us start. So what people are doing? So this is the cuvette, and you see about that there is a small thing. One is called the plain side, one is called frosted side. So the DNA you have to keep it here so the UV can pass through these things. Okay. And look at that, they will adjust with the pipette. So first they're taking about the normal blank, so where the DNA is dissolved. So normally people are using the water as a blank, normally people are using the tea buffer as a blank, whatever. So look at that, they put the DNAs. So this is the most important part. So this is basically the DNA RNA. What you have to do? This is 4600. So we are going for the DNA. So that's why we press the DNA things. Then we have to select the nucleic acids. So and this is a double stranded DNA. For single stranded DNA, you can go for the single stranded DNA. It is a different thing. Then enters. So this is the concentration factors. Then you go for again enters. So read to the absorbance. So this is we are going to first take the blank. Blank means the solution which are the DNA is dissolved. There is no DNA. So we are going to put it first the blank. Look at that which side you are going to put it into the cuvette. So then press it. Read the absorbance. So this is the blanking spectrophotometer. So when you are taking the blanking readings, so everything will be 0. See, look at that 0, 280, everything. Now we are going to measure the DNA. So look at that. They put the DNA samples, that frosted side, that side, put it, and then again press. So measuring absorbance. So we'll get the 260 to 80 values. Okay. Concentration you can get it at microgram per ml. Okay. So 260 value is a 0.011. Okay. And concentration is the like that. So now you want to go for 260 by 280 ratios. So 260 by 2 it will be little bit of high. So that means it might have a phenol bar chloroform contaminations are there. Okay. Okay. So, so this is the overall the DNA part. Now I am going for about that agarose gel electrophoresis. So for agarose gel electrophoresis, so is it slide is visible? Am I right? Hello?
Yes, yes, visible.
Yes. Okay. So what is agarose gel? So agarose gel electrophoresis. So what we have done it, we want to know the DNA concentration, but we don't know what is the DNA quality. Okay. So for quality checking, we have to go for agarose gel electrophoresis. So it separates the DNA or molecules on the basis of their movement through the gel under the influence of the electric field. So why electric field come to the picture? Because DNA is negatively charged, I told, because it has a negatively charged phosphate groups. So when you place DNA in the electric field, DNA will migrate towards the positive pole or anode. And agarose gel is used to the slow movement of the DNA and separate by the DNA size, so how much size it is there. So normally for agarose gel, if the DNA size between 200 base pair to the 50 kilo base pair in length can be separated by the agarose gels. And these are the chemical structure of the agarose. Normally it is going to get it about the geladium and gracilia like these things. And this agarose gels, it is a powder. So we have to dissolve the powder in a buffer. So this buffer is either 1x-TAE, the full name is tris acetate EDTA, or tris borate EDTA. Okay, tris borate EDTA normally people are using for the Sardan blotting and for long time of gel because the buffering capacity is much more higher in compared to the tris acetate. Then agarose gel. So because agarose gel is insoluble at room temperature, so agarose solution need to be the boiled in a microwave oven. So when it will be completely fully boiled and no agarose particles should be suspended, we have to take it out from the microwave oven and cool down. So up to 60 degrees centigrade. Okay. Then you have to cast it. So how you can cast it, whatever the way you can cast it, and coming to the next slides. Okay. So these are the horizontal. So we have to go for the horizontal gel electrophoresis one. So okay. So what is the apparatus? We have a casting stay, we have a gel tank, we have a electrophoresis power pack. This is the lid of this tank. These are the gel comb. So each gel comb has a different size. Okay. It depends upon that, and different number of wells are there. So it depends upon that how much thick gels you are going to prepare, etc., etc. So when cooled, the agarose gels polymerize and forming a flexible gel. Okay. So one thing is that for cooling the agarose gel and gel casting and all this, it will take 45 minutes to 1 hour. Okay. And you have to, after casting the gel, when you put the gel into the gel tank, we have to cover the gel with the buffers. Electrophoresis buffer. What is the buffer? Buffer is 1x-TAE or 1x-TBE. Okay. Next. So how you can prepare the samples? So now the DNA is there. We have to add the DNA with the gel loading dye. So this gel loading dye has a bromophenol blue or xylene cyanone. So it has a color. And second one is the glycerol. So what the glycerol will do, it will ensure, because DNA is a very viscous, in particularly the genomic DNA is very viscous. So to ensure the DNA should get enter into the well, that's why they use the glycerol. So this allows the sample to be seen when loading onto the gel and increases the density of the sample and causing them sink to the gel wells. Now this bromophenol blue, it will get tracking dye. So how much? So it will be visible into the naked eye. So how much the gel is moving? Okay, because DNA you cannot see in the naked eyes. You need to know under the UV transilluminator. So what way you can observe the DNA under the UV spectrophotometer? Sorry, the UV transilluminator, that I am coming to the later on. So this bromophenol blue, it migrates 2.2 fold faster than xylene cyanone styles, because and bromophenol blue migrates through the agarose gels as routinely if the DNA fragment is 300 base pair. So if the bromophenol blue migrate up to how much? So because DNA we cannot see into the naked eye. So that's why we need some tracking dye or marker. So we can clearly, if you see the DNA bromophenol blue movement, we can tell about that, okay, these 300 base pairs coming towards the end. And another one important key feature of the agarose gel electrophoresis is that the fragment, the DNA migrates through the agarose gel with the mobility that is inversely proportional to the molecular weight of the DNA. So what does it mean? If the DNA is larger size, so we have to decrease the agarose gel percentage. If DNA, suppose if it is a DNA very small fragment, suppose maybe the 150 base pair DNA fragment. So these are the basically about the base pair is the DNA length unit, 300 base pair, 1 kilo base pair, 50 kilo base pair. So for if you, even if you go for the 2 kb, 4 kb, 4 kb of DNA double-stranded fragment, you need 0.8% of agarose gel, because agarose gel percentage makes a matter how you can separate the DNA in the agarose gels. Okay, so that's why they told about that fragments of linear DNA fragment through agarose gels with a mobility that is inversely proportional to the log 10. So log 10 conversion of their molecular weight. Molecular weight means DNA molecular weight. DNA molecular log 10 conversions. Okay. Then high concentration of agarose. So if the DNA agarose, if suppose if you are using 2% agarose, 3% agarose, that will ensure the small DNA fragments. A low agarose concentration allows the resolution of the large DNA fragments. So DNA resolutions are depends upon the agarose percentage. So how much percentage of agarose you are going to use. So the base resolution fragment is 2 kilo base pairs, and you can use about the particular voltage. So how you can run the DNA gel with the voltage and ampere. So that is coming in. So now how you can load it. So when you add the DNA with the 6x legs loading die, you carefully the pipette, you put it into the gels, okay, all the DNA samples, then put it in the lead. Lead has a one black, one is red wire. So the black wire will go to the positive or negative as per the directions about that, because see the red is become positive charge, black become negative charge. So exactly you have to fitting like that, because remember the DNA is moving from the negative side to the positive, because DNA is a negatively charged. Now here I am going to mention one important thing. Suppose if you want to use the DNA, how you can look it. Normally when you are boiling the agarose, okay, in the microwave oven, after when the complete dissolve, you have to add the ethidium bromide. It is a DNA intercalating agent. It's highly carcinogenic. That's why when you are using any agarose gel, you have to wear the gloves. So this will allow to DNA visualize in the UV transilluminator. Okay, so the pore size in the gel is controlled by the initial concentration of agarose. This is what I explained about that. Large pore size are formed for low concentration, or small pore size are formed for high concentration of agarose. Okay, so the leads are attached correctly, so DNA migrates to the, so that is what I mentioned about that. So red will go positive, black will go negative, it will be the like that. So the black will go to the negative side. So if you interchange it, DNA will be moving towards that side, not moving towards this side. So it will go to the reverse side movement. Okay. And second one is that if you add ethidium bromide, the ethidium bromide and DNA, even the whatever agarose, that itself can resist the agarose DNA movement through the agarose gel. So that phenomenon is called electroendosmosis. I didn't go through all this thing because it's even that, but this is for your extra information I am just going to tell. Okay, now this is the UV transilluminator, this is the ultraviolet UV transilluminator. So what is the DNA in the gel need to be stained and visualized. So what I told about that, ethidium bromide staining is needed, and the UV light need the 300 nanometer. So what ethidium bromide will go, it will go bind to the, if you recalled about the first slide, the DNA double helix structure. So it will go intercalated between the base pairs, okay, and emit the fluorescence emissions, okay. And to protect the, so because it is a UV transilluminator, so you have to keep it the UV shield, or you have to use the goggles so the UV light cannot directly touch your skin or directly touch your eyes. Okay, then you can see, look at that, cathode to anode, DNA negatively charged. So this is a bromophenol blue. So how the blue dyes are going to movement, and you can easily visualize about that the DNA gels like that. Okay, in UV transilluminator. So this is the DNA ladders. What is the function of DNA ladders? So I want to know what is the size of my DNA. So what is the DNA ladder? DNA ladder understood the known DNA size used to determine the size of unknown DNA sample. Because if I don't know about the DNA size, how I go for further downstream experiments? And what is the function of ethidium bromide? So ethidium bromide binds between the stacked base pairs of the DNA and DNA intercalating agents. And ethidium bromide can be added to the buffer, 1xT buffer, so you can stain it. So either you can, so ethidium, so after agarose gel run, you can stain it by ethidium bromide, or at the time of agarose boiling, after agarose, when it is boiled, it is totally suspended, mixed up with the TE buffer. When it is come to the 60 degrees centigrade, before casting, you can add the ethidium bromide. Okay, so I am just going to show another one video before I am just okay, I think this one. So copy. Okay, so before I have gone through this thing, so I am just again recapitulating. It's almost my work was, my part was done. Only thing is this video showing. So what we showed about that the DNA isolations, so make it from the fish fin. So then we have gone through the DNA spectrophotometer reading. Then we are going for that how to observe the DNA, whatever we isolated. So this will tell very nicely about that how the agarose gel electrophoresis performance done. So I am just going for this. So yes. So I hope it is visualized to everybody. Am I right?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So look at that. This is the, I'm just stop it. This is the microwave oven. This is the electrophoresis power pack. This is gel apparatus. This is gel casting stand. UV transfluometer, electronic balance to measuring the agarose. So they are using, I think, 2% agarose. Cylinders, buffers, measuring cylinder, adjusting pipette. So these are all things should be available before you are. See, the most important thing, I just want to pass on the message of the student. Before you are going to start experiment, you should know what you are required for your experiment. That should be available in the bench. So you start the experiment, you thought about that this is not there, that is not there. Don't do this kind of experiments. Okay. So let us start. So this is basically the 2 ml of this. So they are making about that. This is the measuring cylinder. This is 50x TAE buffer. So high concentration of TAE buffer. We want to make it the 1x. Okay. We add it. Then we adjust the volume up to 100 ml by the water, distilled water, deionized water. Okay. Then you put it into the measuring cylinder. You mix it properly by checking. Then you have to weighing the agarose. So the agarose is just like a powder. With the spatula, you can take it. I think they are going to measuring it in 2 grams. Okay. After 2 grams of agarose, add it into the buffer, 1x TAE buffer. Then take it in the microwave oven. So look at that shape is try to mix it in, but it without microwave heating, it is not going to mix it properly. So they put it in the microwave oven. Okay, so 85 degrees centigrade, whatever can be required. So when entire agarose is dissolved, you put it into the water bath to come down the temperature up to 60 degrees centigrade. Even if you don't, you can use it. So because we have to add the ethidium bromide. So if you are using the ethidium bromide in high temperature, ethidium bromide will be break. So ethidium bromide is never used for the DNA staining. So we have to add the ethidium bromide. Look at that ethidium bromide when they're using all molecular biology experiments, you have to add the gloves. So this is a red color, you add it, and when the agarose, the solution's temperature will be the 60 degrees centigrade, 55 to 60 degrees centigrade. More temperature, they will denature the ethidium bromide. So mix it. Now they are going for casting. So this is a gel casting tray. They put the comb, gel casting tray. So they will make properly use it, because if they are not using, so look at that, I'm just going to stop it. If they are not using it, so there is a chance agarose can maybe leak it. So for avoiding leaking, they can make it sealed by the screwdriver. Okay. Then they are putting the comb. So look at the comb, all the combs, so I think 8 or 9 oils are there. Then they are going to add it. They cannot add it completely. So it need to cover about that 0.5% of the combs. Okay, look at that. And now you have to solidify it for 45 minutes to 1 hour. Then after that you have to remove it and remove very carefully. So the agar, so oil should not get disturbed. If oil should get disturbed, so one DNA sample can mix up with another DNA samples. Then you are going to add it into the buffer chambers, electrophoresis chamber. You add it 1xDA buffer. So entire buffer should be submerged. Okay. Then you take it the paraffin. You take the 4 microliter of 6x gel loading dye. See the bromophenol blue 6x gel loading dye. So when you are doing pipetting, be ensured about that no air bubble should form. So then it will get in the error of the pipetting. So how many number of samples? You can add it about the same number of 6x gel loading dye. So maybe the 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever the samples. 8 samples, 8 you have to put it the 6x gel loading dye. Okay, then you are going to add your DNA. So they are going to add about the 20 microliter of DNA. Yes. So DNA is ready. So first they want to use the marker. So I told you about that. It is a DNA ladder. So it will use to determine about their unknown DNA size. So suppose whether your agarose, and not only that, I am just going to, so what is the DNA ladder? Suppose if you do not have a DNA, if your DNA quality is good or bad, but when you run the gel, the DNA ladder should come into the agarose gels, whether DNA come or not. That is most important. So that will tell whether your agarose is properly dissolved or not, agarose gel percentage is perfectly fine or not, polymerization perfect, and your buffer pH is accurate or not, you are going to use a proper buffer or not, whatsoever. Okay. So look at how the DNA. So the DNA is loaded into the well. Okay. So one by one sample you have to load into the well. So no air bubble should be formed, because if the air bubble will be formed, DNA will be come out from the well. So one time. See, look at that. Okay. Then take it out. Mixing properly mixing. Okay. Because it is a 4 microliter 6x gel loading dye, so you have to take it entire volume. Okay. No air bubble should come. Then load it into the okay. So like that, you have to load the samples. Now cover the lid. Okay. So red is positive, black is negative. So black is going negative, for the DNA side is there. DNA is loaded. Red will go here. Now you have to run the voltage and okay. So look at that, the bromphenol blue is moving. So bromphenol blue migration is equivalent to 300 base pairs of the DNA. So 100 voltage, 5 ampere. So you can make it the 50 volt is also fine, no use. No problem. So minimum 50 volt is good enough. So it depends upon how fast you want to see your bands. Sometimes if you are using the more voltage, the DNA may go out from the gel. Okay, so put the gel in the UV transparent transilluminator, cover it and switch on the light. And you will get about this kind of bands. Okay, so if the time permit, I just want to show one presentation from Bharat. What is the original Bharat gel apparatus are there? Shoma, is the time is there?
Yes, you can show.
Okay.
Yeah, no problem. No problem.
Okay. Think 1 minute. Okay, I think this one, sorry. I'm just checking this one, which one is the correct. So it's not this one. So so this is actually the original lab thing. So if you see the different kind of casting plates are there. So different kind of casting strands are there. Okay. So this is what I explained previously also. And then so this is the comb, what they are going to add it. It depends upon how many number of samples if you are running the gels. Even if you thought, okay, you are going to make it here 2% gel, here 1% gel, here 0.8% gel, you can make it, because there is a barrier about these things. So look at that. This is agarose, okay, and this is the normal beakers what I showed about this in your previous presentation. So you put it agarose, then add the buffers. If you make it this kind, actually the color comes like that, okay, after addition of buffers. So we have to use by the UV transilluminate, microwave oven boiling. So they are using the microwave oven boiling. So it will be very hazy. So if it is boiled, if it is transparent, it was done. So you have to open it, and you have to find it out about that, whether that agarose was boiled properly or not. It is so if it is not, and you have to use about this kind of rubber gloves because it is very heated. So okay, so till if you see about that, there are a lot of undissolved materials are there, so you have to keep it this process on. Okay, again you have to go for the microwave ovens. Yes, so look at that, it is much more transparent. If you see this, so no suspended particles are there. So if you are not properly dissolved it, why I am showing the agarose percentage. Suppose you told that I prepare 2% agarose gel. If your agarose is not properly boiled or not properly dissolved, it does not mean that you are going to prepare 2% agarose gels. Okay. See how much time he is taking for the proper dissolution. So this is the most important part. So now it is very transparent. So we have to, yes, he is going to add the ethidium bromides. And keep it in the room temperatures. Look at that is the red colors, what I showed in the previous class. Okay. Okay, so I hope I try to cover it. It is less than 1 hour or exactly 1 hour. Is it okay?
Okay.
So any questions from the student side or discussions?
Shoma, is there any questions?
Yeah. First of all, thank you, Indranil.
Okay, thank you.
You have thoroughly explained each and every step of DNA isolation, quantification, and electrophoresis in a very lucid manner. I think the students be benefited from this presentation. Now I have collected some questions from the chat box. I'll place it one by one.
Hmm.
First question, is there any other detergent that we can use other than SDS?
Okay. Actually, if you go to the DBT side, Department of Biotechnology side, this is a very good question. Even if you use the surf, no, what you are using in your house, that also you can use for the DNA isolation, because DBT has a manual book where Department of that you don't need to purchase sophisticated chemicals. Actually, what happened, this is that we have some US meeting. So from ILS Life Science, Professor B. Ravindran came. So he was in that committee chairman. So he literally scolded us because we are using the high media kit for DNA isolation for the student practical. Because students do not have that much of patient wait for whole day for DNA isolations. So they are everything added ready-made. Then he said, look, this is the not the correct way, because student has to know about that. So if you go through the DBT site, they have a manual. What are the best possible ways? Suppose if you do not have a fund, so how the college or universities, when do not have a fund, how they can learn the practical, at least student has some basic idea. Okay, because most of the whatever you show, I showed about that, this kind of a sophisticated lab is hardly from the even our universities also less. But what I'm telling about that, if you please go through it, yes, they are using the detergents. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Second question, some plastic.
Next question is,
yeah.
Will
Hello.
It's not clear, Shoma. Hello, Shoma.
Yeah. Okay, I have seen the question. So now I'm in the chat box. So question for the speaker, will the same protocol be used for bacterial plasmid DNA and plant DNA isolation? No, it may need to the modification. The reason is that bacterial plasmid DNA, you have to go for the totally different protocols. Plant DNA isolation, you can use the same component, but there are something, because plant is a very hard materials. Okay, so that's why you cannot use this one for the plant. You need to, that's why I'm telling about that. What is your source materials? Okay, if your source material is normal blood, you don't need to go mortar and pestles and all these things. If you put the lysis buffer and even normal hypotonic solutions in the cytogenetics practical we have done, if normal KCl solution, total RBC will be lyse like anything. And if you just centrifuge it, we'll get it about the lymphocytes. Okay, then another question I have sent, that what is another detergent that I already mentioned. Will DNA move through the always agarose gel in a linear manner? Yes. It depends upon that. See, the DNA, if you want to go for the genomic DNA or plasmid DNA, really if you go from that in the linear manner, but if you go for the PCRs, or if you go for the single strand conformation, see, you isolate the DNA, but what is the downstream applications? In that case, you may need to about the denatures the DNA, and you can run it about that. So normally, and you have to utilize the probe-based separations, etc. So it will vary about your application to applications wise. Then will the DNA move? Okay. What agarose gel concentration to be used for the preparation of gels? Okay. So suppose if you want to isolate the genomic DNA, I preferred about in my laboratory whatever 0.8% to 1% agarose gels. Okay. And if you go for the PCR band, it is there. So it is, the formula is like that. How much? What is your genomic DNA size approximate? You have a the background information you must have. Okay, genomic DNA or human genomic DNA or even that evolutionary scale, the birds, whatever, you should know about that one. So if you know that one, then you can prepare your agarose gel percentage like that. Suppose if you go for the, okay, I want to make it about that PCR band purification. So then you 150 base pair or 200 base pair, you can go for the 2% agarose gels. Okay.
Another question.
Yeah.
If a plasmid DNA is partially digested during an agarose gel electrophoresis, what observation can we obtain from it?
And now the question is that, okay, so if you are thinking about the cloning, okay, suppose if you are about the plasmid DNA, so if you are taking the equal DNA, you can interact it about that. So it depends upon that. If you are using for the cloning purpose, what are the fragments are there. So definitely you will get it about the separation. But normally, if you are so it depends on another thing. It depends upon what kind of restriction enzymes are using. Okay, because digestion means you have to use the restriction enzyme. So equally, EcoRO1 actually it is so much steric effect. They can chopping like anything about any part of the plasmid DNA or even the human DNA also. So EcoRO1, XBA1, XMA1, ZO1. So different restriction enzymes are there. So which restriction enzyme, where it is cutting on what basis fragment, that depends upon what restriction enzyme you are using.
Any other questions, students? Then okay, Indranil, we had a great session today. I am sure students have learned a lot from Dr. Chattopadhyay. Videos are very nice. It helps the students to understand better. This will put the students a better position to quickly grasp the techniques when their experiments hands-on once in the class resume in college. Indranil clarified so beautifully that it makes the task easier for us also. Our heartiest thanks to Dr. Chattopadhyay for sharing his valuable thoughts and words with us. We hope we get to listen to him again sometime in the future when we meet in the physical space of the college. I thank our respected principal, Dr. Urmila Okil, for her support and cooperation, and Dr. Sudeshna Chatterjee, the IQSC coordinator, for her encouragement. Thank you, Tamoglu, for your technical support. Thanks to my colleagues and students. With that, we sign off for today. We meet again on next Friday, the 4th September, for the second lecture of this series. You can look through the flyer for more details of the upcoming webinar. Thank you and goodbye. Thank you, Indranil.
Okay. Thank you, madam. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Shoma.
Thank you, Indranil. Stay safe.
Okay. Okay. Bye. 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 Bye.
Bye.